In this first true horror story, everything starts on a night so ordinary that I almost didn't remember it afterward, which is what makes it worse, because nothing felt wrong at first. I was driving home late, the streets mostly empty, my mind half shut down from exhaustion, when I noticed a car behind me that stayed there a little too long, not close enough to be aggressive, not far enough to ignore, just present. And I remember checking my mirrors more than I needed to, telling myself it was nothing, until I turned off the main road and into my neighborhood, and the car followed, still silent, still patient. And that's when a tight pressure settled in my chest. So I did what people do when they're trying to feel in control. I skipped my driveway and circled the block, then circled it again, and the car never broke away. It mirrored every move like it already knew where I was going. And when I finally stopped in front of my house, heart racing, the car didn't pull in behind me. It rolled past slowly, headlights crawling across my lawn and up the side of my house. And for a split second, I saw the driver, a middle-aged man with a blank expression, not angry, not curious, just calm in a way that didn't belong, like this was routine for him. Then he drove off, disappearing into the dark. But sleep never came, because sometime after 2 a.m., my phone vibrated on the nightstand with a notification from my doorbell camera. And when I opened it, my stomach dropped because the footage showed a man standing on my porch, not centered in frame, just close enough that I could see part of his shoulder and jaw. And I recognized him instantly. He wasn't knocking, wasn't ringing the bell, wasn't moving at all, just standing there like he was listening. And I watched the timestamp tick forward in silence. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5, 9, my breathing shallow, my body frozen under the blankets, and then he leaned closer to the door, so close the microphone barely picked it up, and whispered my name. Softly, carefully, like he'd practiced it. And I felt this wave of dread that went deeper than fear, because you can't explain how someone knows your name when you've never met them. And before I could even process that, another alert appeared beneath the video. Motion detected, interior hallway. And I remember thinking it had to be a glitch. It had to be, until I realized I could hear it too. The faint sound of movement outside my bedroom door, a slow shift of weight, a floorboard settling, something breathing on the other side. And I stayed perfectly still, staring at the dark doorway, waiting for the handle to turn, knowing with a sick certainty that whoever had followed me home hadn't come to my porch to get inside, because he was already there. And whatever he wanted, he wasn't in a hurry anymore. In this second true horror story, you would not believe how quickly a normal habit turned into something that made me afraid of my own reflection, because it started with a mirror I had walked past every single day without thinking. The tall one in my hallway that caught my face as I left for work and again when I came home. And for years it was just glass, until one night I noticed something small and wrong. My reflection blinked a second too late, not enough that I could swear to it, just enough that my brain hesitated, and I laughed it off the way you do when you don't want to sound insane. But after that night I couldn't stop noticing it, the way my reflection seemed to watch me instead of copy me, the way its eyes felt focused even when mine weren't. And then the real problem started when I realized it was learning me, because the reflection began to move the way I usually did. Not instantly, but predictively, smiling before I smiled, turning its head before I did, like it already knew what I was about to choose. And I started testing it, raising my hand slowly, stopping halfway, and every time, the reflection completed the motion anyway, like it was finishing a thought I hadn't committed to yet. And the more I tested it, the calmer it looked, while I felt myself unravel, until one night I covered the mirror completely with a blanket and went to bed with the lights on, heart racing, telling myself that was the end of it. But when I woke up the next morning, the blanket was folded neatly on the floor, and the mirror was uncovered, spotless, waiting. And I swear I didn't sleepwalk. I live alone. And I locked the door. But what finally broke me was the note taped to the glass, written in my handwriting, shaky but unmistakable, that said, "You don't need it anymore." And as I stood there staring, my reflection raised its hand and pressed it flat against the inside of the mirror. smiling softly, like someone reassuring a nervous friend. And that's when I understood the truth that still keeps me awake at night. That it wasn't trying to scare me or replace me. It was practicing, waiting for the moment when I'd finally stop trusting myself enough to stay on this side of the glass. In this third true horror story, the most terrifying part wasn't what I saw, it was what didn't react when it should have. Because it began with a missing person alert that popped up on my phone during breakfast. A local man reported missing after leaving work the night before, and his photo made my fork pause halfway to my mouth because I recognized him instantly, not from the news, but from my building. He lived 2 floors above me. Quiet, polite, always nodded in the stairwell. And what unsettled me wasn't that he was missing, it was that I had seen him that morning, standing in the lobby by the mailboxes, wearing the same jacket as in the photo, head slightly bowed, completely still. And I remembered thinking it was strange he didn't return my greeting, but I brushed it off and went to work, until later that night when another alert came through, the police asking for information, saying there had been confirmed sightings of someone matching his description. Sightings that didn't make sense, because they were all reported after the time he was officially declared missing. And that's when the unease settled in. Because when I came home, the lobby was empty, too empty, like sound itself had been turned down. And as I waited for the elevator, I caught my reflection in the mirrored doors and realized someone was standing behind me, close enough that I should have heard them, smelled them, something. But there was nothing, no footsteps, no breath. And when the elevator doors slid open, he was there again, the missing man, standing inside, facing the corner, not pressing a button, not moving. And I froze, every instinct screaming at me not to step in. And in that moment, he slowly turned his head toward me, and his eyes were open, wide, glassy, but empty, like no one was behind them anymore. And in a voice that sounded practiced, flattened, he said my name, perfectly, even though we had never spoken before. And the elevator dinged impatiently, waiting, and that's when I noticed the detail that still haunts me. His reflection didn't move with him. It stayed facing the corner, frozen, like it hadn't gotten the update yet. And I stepped back as the doors closed on their own, leaving him inside, alone. And later that night, as I lay awake replaying it all, my phone buzzed one last time. Not with an alert, but a simple notification from my building security app, camera activity detected, elevator 3. And when I opened the clip, my blood ran cold because it showed the elevator stopping on my floor, the doors opening, and no one stepping out, just a dark, empty hallway waiting, as if whatever had learned my name was already done using him and was ready to come find me next.